Morning. The meeting is called to order. For the record, the time is 11 a.m. This is Tuesday, March 4th. The commission and staff are appearing from Helena, Montana in the Bollins Room of the Public Service Commission. I'm Commissioner Bukacek, and I'm the presiding chair of this meeting. Would my colleagues please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. For the record, the following commissioners are present in the room: President Molnar, Vice President Fielder, and Commissioner Molnar. Excuse me, Wellborn. They are present in the Bollins Room, and so am I, Annie Bukacek. So we have a quorum. Commissioner Prochius is online. He's here remotely. So the Public Service Commission welcomes public comment on any item that is on today's agenda or any matter that is within the jurisdiction of the Montana Public Service Commission. Are there any public commenters in the room? None in the room? Any public commenters online? So for announcements, there's one change on the agenda. Today's legislative update is canceled. And Vice President Fielder, you have a commissioner announcement?
Thank you, Chair Bukacek. Just a reminder that today, during the lunch hour, if the business meeting is concluded before then, we will have a department-wide training session on the internal policy manual, and that's a lunch and learn. So those attending department personnel, whether commissioners or staff attending, will be able to sit for lunch while we go through the training. Encourage you all to be there.
Thank you. So moving on to an action item, approval of the commission minutes for the week of February 17th.
Madam Chair.
Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Commissioner Wellborn moved. Do we have a second?
A second.
Any corrections to the minutes? Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of Commissioner Wellborn's motion, say aye.
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 Motion carries.
Any opposed?
Any opposed? All right. We will move into our first work session item regarding docket 2024.12.119. It is to consider a decision on L&L's application for temporary operating authority. Ms. Webster.
Good morning, commissioners. My name is Amanda Webster, and I'm a staff attorney for the Department of Public Service Regulation and the Montana Public Service Commission. Before you is a staff memo that summarizes the legal standard and evidence presented by the two parties in this case, which are L&L Site Services, doing business as Grizzly Disposal and Recycling, and Allied Waste Services, doing business as Republic Services of Montana. Staff makes no recommendation in this matter because the commission could reasonably decide either way, and there are no prior commission decisions that match the facts presented by L&L. Here, the commission has discretion to grant temporary operating authority to L&L for up to 90 days. The commission may do so when, 1, there is an immediate and urgent need for the proposed service, and 2, there is no other Class D carrier capable of meeting the need. In this case, the first element really comes down to whether the August 2024 affidavit from Rocking J Ranch establishes that the ranch has an immediate and urgent need for the weekly roll-off service they mentioned for scrap metal, trash, and construction and fire waste to be hauled off via roll-off containers. The second element here comes down to whether you find the affidavit of Ryan Kaufman, who is a manager for Republic, to be credible, to prove that Republic is capable of meeting the ranch's need for roll-off service. Republic is an authorized carrier that is authorized to haul roll-offs in Granite County. Here, L&L has the burden to prove that both elements are more likely than not to be met in order to receive temporary operating authority. The staff memo before you goes into a lot more detail, but for the sake of brevity, I'd now be happy to take any questions at this time.
Any questions for staff before we entertain a motion?
I have one, Madam Chair, if I may. Amanda or Ms. Webster, was there any evidence presented to help us determine whether or not L&L actually offered the service to this customer that has reported that they're not being served and has turned in information or copies of communications regarding their attempts to get, not L&L, their attempts to get Republic to serve them? Is there any evidence that Republic either did or didn't, or was or wasn't willing to provide the service?
Commissioner Fielder, there is no evidence that L&L actually provided the service.
Republic.
Or yes, the Republic has actually provided the service at any time in the past. The only evidence before the commission is that L&L, or that Republic contacted L&L in December saying that they could provide service, and Republic's attorneys affirmed that they contacted L&L in January to let them know they could provide the proposed service.
And the only evidence we really have in the record are some copies of communications and records of communications where the ranch had requested the service from Republic, and then they reported that Republic either didn't respond or said they couldn't because they didn't have an operating license. I mean, is that well evidenced, or is it just, are we just going on what people said they said happened?
Vice President Fielder, the statements from Republic in those 3 emails in July and August 2024 are opposing party statements, which would be good evidence to say that at some point the Republic employees said they could not provide service there. On the other hand, that's weighed against the affidavit from Republic saying in December 2024 they could provide service and have been able to the whole time.
Okay, but before that point in December where Republic said they could provide it and they could have the whole time, is there anything to show that there were efforts made and that Republic ignored those efforts?
Vice President Fielder, no, there is not.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
Seeing none, Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion. And that motion would be that staff deny the request for the L&L to take over this part of business in Granite County. My rationales are that we as a commission don't take up issues that side with one party or another in these in a contested docket. We have no complaint to work on if we're strictly complaint driven. So to that end, we don't have a complaint. We can't take action. If after this a complaint comes up, we can take action. Between now and then, in only 6 weeks, we're going to have a full hearing on this. And for us to grant intervention into an existing Class D, I believe would be very inappropriate.
That was the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and President Molnar has given the reasons for his motion. Anything you wanted to add?
Just very quickly, I guess. I have, and this is emailed out to all commissioners very recently. I asked to be placed in your inboxes as well. I requested from Shorten and her staff a list of complaints since the hearing in Sweetgrass County.
Madam Chair, I'm going to call a point of order. I want to be sure that we're sticking with this particular matter and not venturing into another docket.
We are not. And I asked if there were complaints prior to that. There are no complaints from the ranch in question. So we do not have documentation of even a filing, let alone a resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. You had me scared there for a minute.
I have that tendency.
Any other discussion?
I would have a point of clarification, Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, please.
I want to address President Molnar, a comment that you made. For clarity, there is no requirement that a complaint is necessary before granting temporary operating authority. This matter is usually handled with an application from the carrier saying that we want to provide service and affidavits supporting that application. And in this case, they have an affidavit from Rocking J Ranch, but there is no connection with the consumer complaint system that we have for taking complaints about Class D service.
Madam Chair, I understand that. I'm saying that we don't even have the beginnings of that. So we have nothing to act on, not even at the consumer complaint level.
President Molnar, just a brief follow-up on that. A complaint would not be necessary for an application for temporary operating authority when an application is before the commission with an affidavit. It may be an avenue the ranch could have taken first, but it wouldn't be required for them to do so.
And they didn't. Thank you.
Vice President.
Thank you,
Fielder?
Madam Chair. I'm actually going to oppose the motion. I think that I favor granting the order, the temporary operating authority to the applicant, simply because there's an obvious need for service that's been identified here, documented and evidenced. It's a business. Businesses, I mean, I know how much the household garbage can build up over a period of time, but a business is going to be producing typically a lot more garbage than a household. So, I mean, to have a business sitting in Montana that wants service and has a carrier that's willing to provide the service and able to provide the service, and another one that has the authority in that area but hasn't provided the service, I just think we should give the temporary operating authority to allow this company that's eager to provide the service to go in there and provide it and solve the problem for the customer. So I'm going to oppose the motion to deny the operating authority. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Pinoche.
thank you. I wanted to make it clear that there should be an announcement that I'm not in the office today because I have a hearing in Miles City starting tomorrow. So that's where I'm at. And I also have a hearing tomorrow in Glendive. So I wanted to let everybody know I'm doing that. But my question is, I guess I'm misunderstanding. I thought that Rocking R Ranch said they could not get service when they needed it. Now, they may not have made a complaint, but I wanted to be clear. Were they not able to get a roll-off when they asked for one from Republic? Can I ask that?
Ms. Webster.
Commissioner Pinoche, that is true. L&L asked for roll-offs 3 times from Republic in July and August 2024, and we're told that Republic does not provide the service.
Just to make a correction, I think you meant to say that the ranch requested service, and I think you said L&L requested service.
Yes, the ranch requested service in July and August 2024. Also, as another brief follow-up point, the commission's decision in this case is limited to the record before it, which in this case is based on the application, the affidavits attached to the application, the motion that was filed by L&L, and the response from Republic.
Follow up, Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Pinoche.
I have to agree with Jennifer Fielder. I'm sorry, Vice President Fielder. I have to support the availability of service when people need it. Thank you.
Any other discussion? President Molnar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Amanda, it's my understanding that service is being provided, that the complaint we're talking about here goes back almost 8 months, and that the problem is either resolved or in some way no longer existing. Is that correct?
President Molnar, there's no information in the record to know whether this is an ongoing problem or whether it still exists. We just know that it existed, or it may have existed at one point based on the affidavit from the ranch.
And since that time, which would be August, is there anything in the record that would indicate we have an ongoing problem?
President Molnar, there's nothing else in the record other than the motion from L&L, which states that there's an ongoing problem, but that's not an evidence or affidavit in the record.
Thank you very much.
To doubt by many month lapse of time between the affidavit of complaint and the submission of the application for temporary operating authority. And now we are over 6 months since the immediate and urgent need affidavit was signed. The urgency requirement might be considered met by the need for weekly service for trash buildup. And of course, we empathize with that, but we don't have a supplement with updated information to say the ranch still needs Class D services or that it has tried to obtain services from Republic since August. So Montana Administrative Rule 38.3.5033D states the affidavit must state the time limit for service and why there is urgency. And it's been 6 months since that affidavit. Point 2, at this time, Republic appears to be willing and capable of providing services to the ranch. A Republic manager has stated as true under oath that he informed the ranch twice in December that Republic was willing and able to provide services to the ranch promptly, and that Republic employees that told the ranch manager otherwise in July and August were incorrect, as you stated. Also, according to Republic's response, Republic through counsel informed L&L in January 2025 that Republic does provide services for the area, which includes the ranch. And also, as President Molnar stated, within a month, there will be a full hearing for L&L's permanent application for Class D Certificate of Public Convenience. I will be supporting President Molnar's motion. So we're ready for a vote? I'm going to repeat the motion. The motion is to deny the application for temporary operating authority. President Molnar,
Yes.
Vice President Fielder,
No.
Commissioner Wellborn,
No.
Commissioner Panochi,
No.
and I will be voting yes.
Madam Chair, since
So the motion fails.
since that motion has failed, I will go ahead and move that the commission approve the temporary operating authority. And I don't feel I need to argue it any further.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Okay, we'll take a vote on that. President Molnar,
No.
Vice President Fielder,
Yes.
Commissioner Wellborn,
Yes.
Commissioner Panochi,
Yes.
myself, no. So that motion carries. Thank you. And I just wanted to say that I really appreciate the work that was done on this. It was extremely well written, extremely well documented, including 72 references. So thank you very much, legal staff, for that. So this concludes work session number 1. Now we're going to go to work session number 2. And this is docket 2025.01.015, commission initiated. This is a commission investigation into Class D services provided by Allied Waste Services of North America, LLC, and Allied Waste Systems of North America, LLC. Ms. Webster.
Commissioners, before you is a draft letter regarding investigative requests for information in this docket. The purpose of this letter is to issue questions to Allied Waste to scrutinize and determine solutions to the main issues that were raised at the Big Timber listening session held last month. Specifically, staff prepared questions to address issues with Allied Waste Services. These issues, the main issues that came up at the listening session, were repetitive missed or partial garbage service, inconsistent last minute or no communication to customers regarding missed service, difficult communication with Allied Waste from customers not getting consistent refunds for missed services, misinformation from Allied Waste employees regarding refunds, Allied Waste having false records of fulfilled service, Allied Waste charging fuel recovery fees for refunds for missed service, Allied Waste employees cutting cords on garbage containers meant to keep lids closed in high wind areas, and Allied Waste employees moving garbage containers or marking containers to be moved adjacent to high-speed roads instead of allowing the containers to remain in long-standing locations away from the roads. If Allied Waste answers these questions, they could be admissible at a future order to show cause hearing as opposing party statements. Alternatively, Allied Waste could answer these questions and the commission could determine based on their answers that there is no longer an ongoing issue. Depending on their response, if they have an evasive response or no response, staff will recommend further action. Having answers to these questions will ultimately help us develop the next steps in the commission's investigations. Therefore, staff recommends approving the draft letter and authorizing staff to make any appropriate clerical edits. Specifically, one clerical edit I have identified is that in paragraph 2, the date of the Big Timber listening session should have been February 6th, 2025. I'd now be happy to take any questions at this time.
Any questions for staff before we entertain a motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question would be is what time frame does Republic have to answer the questions in this letter?
President Molnar, the date Allied is given in the draft to respond is March 26th, 2025, which would be about 3 weeks from the date of today. There are about 4 pages of questions, and many of these questions have subparts and ask Allied Waste about their service throughout the entire state of Montana. And because of the volume of the questions is why we recommended 3 weeks.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Panoche?
thank you. One of the points that was brought up that I didn't hear mentioned today that I think is important is Allied claimed that they had missed service due to weather conditions. But it was made very clear that there were problems with service in months like September or October. And October didn't have a lot of bad weather. There was missed service in August. I think for the record, it's important to note that it seemed to me that their main reason for having disruption in service was due to weather, but the testimony from the customers was very different. I'd like to make that clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Panoche. Ms. Webster?
If I may, Madam Chair, a brief response to that. We have a question number 4 on page 2, which would hope to get to the number of days during months from July 2024 through February 2025 when weather conditions resulted in unfulfilled service. We asked for that in comparison with the known number of unfulfilled garbage pickups during that particular month, as well as other information about refunds issued in each month or related to service in that particular month. So I would hope to get information about how many days Allied Waste has recorded weather issues impacted their service.
Thank you, Ms. Webster. So we're being asked to consider issuing a draft letter to investigate issues with Allied Waste garbage services and determine potential remedies. We have a motion?
Madam
Madam
Chair,
Chair.
I have a question and then I'll make a motion. Okay, I have some concerns about the way this is moving forward. Should I save those until after the vote? Because if we don't send out the letter, my questions have no validity. And if we do, I think that I want to address the process. Would you prefer I do that before the vote or after the vote?
Before the vote.
Before the vote. Okay, I'm going to make a motion in a moment to approve this, but before I do, and I think this is very important, these 22 complaints on Republic are all over the place, not just counting Big Timber. Most of them are in my district. In the case of Big Timber specifically, and I brought this up at the hearing, if you're missing garbage pickup in an area like Big Timber, which is the base of the mountains, bears cross there all the time. To have a mama bear and 2 sows show up and you got a garbage pile because somebody missed 3 or 4 days or 3 or 4 pickups, you're going to have a bear that's going to protect that just like they would a dead deer. Little kid comes out, little 10-pound cubs, you're going to have a terrible outcome in a matter of minutes. So I do not want bureaucratic lag on this. It's already warm and getting warmer. My personal thought is 3 weeks is a long time. It's taken us 3 weeks to get this far. Whatever we can do to shorten up the timeframes on this. None of these are nuclear secrets. You know, the weather at the day, all of that is a matter of record. I would like to see us move on this as quickly as the law will allow. Also, for what it's worth, the letter we're talking about has been as a draft in our READY system. It's a public system that nobody in the public has any idea how to reference. after this, if the press or anybody wants to know what's in that letter, it'll be a public document, assuming we pass it, in which case anybody can request it and we will send it to them. With that, I make a motion that we accept this, that we approve this letter and ask that it be sent out, and request that public be required to reply as currently indicated.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Panochi seconds.
Madam
Any
Chair-
discussion?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Vice President Fielder.
Thank you. I will support the motion. I appreciate how comprehensive the subject matter is that's covered in the investigative request letter. And I concur with President Molnar's desire to have answers quickly, given the number of questions and topics that are addressed here. I would expect thorough answers. So I also concur with the 3-week time frame to allow this company to gather the information and respond accurately. But I think that we should let them know that we do expect a response promptly, and that we're providing due time for them to get us good answers, good information, detailed information in that time frame. And so I will support the motion, but I would like to just exercise a small point of personal privilege, and that is regarding Ready. Ready is publicly available on the front page of the commission website. It's easily accessed. The staff and the agency have gone to great lengths to make our system much more accessible than it ever has been. So it may not be perfect, but it's darn good, and it's right there and available for anyone to get into any docket anytime they want. And we have heard good comments and accolades about that system from the public at some of our listening sessions. So Ready's a good product, and the commission's made a lot of progress in making sure the public has ample access to everything that we're doing.
Thank you, Vice President Fielder. President Molnar, anything you wanted to add to support your motion? Any
Nope.
other discussion?
Thank you,
Commissioner
Madam
Wellborn?
Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. I also attended the public meeting, and I would agree this is a good next step to helping all the parties get this resolved.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I'll be
So that we
supporting.
have a motion and a second to approve a draft letter to investigate issues with Allied West Garbage Services and determine potential remedies. I think we could do a aye and nay vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Thank you very much. So work session 3 has been canceled. Work session 4 is commission initiated and closed to the public.
Madam Chair, just a note that just the beginning of the work session, number 4, will be closed to the public. There is an anticipation the commission will come back into public session.
I was going to get to that.
Okay.
Thank you. So the presiding officer of any meeting may close the meeting during the time discussion relates to a matter of individual privacy. And if the presiding officer determines the demands of individual privacy clearly exceed the merits of public disclosure, this meeting that we're going to have will involve a discussion regarding personnel matters and applicants for an appointed staff position. This information and discussion involved in this meeting is considered confidential under Montana Administrative Rule 2.21.372. 8. As such, I've determined that the privacy interests of the individual who will be subject of this meeting outweigh the merits of public disclosure. Accordingly, as the presiding officer of this meeting, I'm closing this meeting to the public. We will reconvene right now in the commissioner conference room and then return to the Bollinger Room to continue open session. Vice President Fielder, as chair of the Executive Director Interview Committee, would you like to make any other comments about the process?
Just that the commission appointment itself, should one be made, will be done in a public part of the meeting today. But we get a chance for the commission to meet with the recommended candidate privately for interview type questions.
Thank you. This portion.
to the audio conferencing center. Please enter a conference ID followed by pound. Sorry, I can't find a meeting with that number. Try entering the conference ID again and then press pound. Beginning of this, if you say,
under and administrator of teams of similar size, I think will come in very helpful and be a very good fit for our agency. She's managed the hiring and the firing and the budgets and administrative and operations procedures for her units. So we're pleased to make this recommendation to the agency. And with your indulgence, Madam Chair, I'd like to invite Ms. Lake to make a statement on the record today, a brief statement.
Yes, thank you, Vice President. Alana?
Well, good morning, commissioners and staff. Very excited to be here today. As you mentioned, my name is Alana Lake, and I'm honored to be considered for the executive director position for the Montana Public Service Commission. My decision to apply for this position stems from the unique opportunity to return to Montana, the state that I love and grew up in, after a decade of professional experience across the globe, having served stateside, international locations, and combat zones, leading teams of similar size, as you mentioned. From my leadership roles within the military, government, and private sectors, I've developed extensive skills in managing diverse teams, ranging from military personnel and special agents to analysts and administrative staff. My ability to adapt and lead in complex, high-stakes environments while ensuring teams remain focused on mission-critical objectives has been a hallmark of my career. Upon seeing the exceptional talent within your organization and learning of the dedicated mission to serve the people of Montana, I believe this position aligns perfectly with my goal of continuing a career dedicated to service. Thank you for considering me as your next executive director, and I look forward to the opportunity to contribute to the continued success and the growth of the Montana Public Service Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Alana Lake. Any other commissioner comments? I just wanted to make one, and I was honored to be on the selection and screening committee, and to say that I'm pleased with you as a candidate would be a major understatement. I was also very favorably impressed with the process that was done by Vice President Fielder. So I'll be a yay vote. If there's no other, Commissioner Wellborn.
Madam Chair, and first of all, I would like to thank the selection committee, all of you, for taking the time in the vetting process. And I will be supporting the nomination. I trust your instincts. I've had the opportunity to visit with Ms. Lake myself a little bit, and look forward to working with you and leading an agency that I think is on a good path, but I think it's also a critical time to bring on a leader that helps continue our mission and only, make better the good work that is currently being done. So I will be supporting her nomination. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Wellborn. Extremely well stated. And yours, Vice President Fielder, as well. I think we're ready to take a vote. All in favor of Alana Lake's appointment as Executive Director, say aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Vice President Fielder would like to make an announcement. Great.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since we're pushing right up against the lunch hour, we have a lunch and learn that was scheduled for noon, and I'd like to give us about 10 minutes or so to get the room set up and then convene. So can we do lunch and learn at, let's say, 12:10, starting in this room here? Thank you.
Yes, Vice President Fielder. So this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.